Hi, everyone. All right. Hi, everyone. My name's Dave Jarvis. I'm a business attorney down here in San Diego. I've been doing it for 21 years. I'm a native San Diegan, although I went to school up in Whittier for undergrad, but then came back down here and haven't wanted to leave. Kind of my areas of practice. I'm very much not a litigator. Even going into law school, I had no desire to litigate. I mean, my three main areas of practice are commercial real estate transactions, kind of any sort, purchases and sales. I handle tons of leases. The second area is estate planning. Most of my clients are people that own things, whether it's businesses or real estate. Estate planning is a very, very smooth tie-in to being a transactional attorney, which is always something that surprised me. That there aren't a lot of business attorneys that also are estate planning attorneys, because they're very similar concepts, and a lot of estate planning attorneys kind of just focus on estate planning, which never made sense to me. But and then the third area of practice is I'll say kind of general business. The easiest way to describe that is, most of my clients own businesses, and a wide variety, service businesses, retail businesses. Kind of my focus is on closely held businesses. It's small, the kind of a term is like small business, but that's kind of a misnomer because some of them are pretty big, but closely held meaning that there's only one or two or three owners. I represent very few businesses that are owned by more than three people. Most of them one or two. And that kind of drives also how you conduct, how I interact with clients with a corporation that has 10 shareholders is different than how I interact with the client, that's the sole owner of a business, for example. But that's kind of what I do. And, I was lucky. I went into law school wanting to do this. I had one job interview after law school with my partner now, who was a mentor, and I enjoy what I do, but that's, definitely, I mean, I welcome questions, so please fire away. I mean, I'm a talker, so I'll just keep talking if no one asks questions, but, fire away. Anyone there? Anyone hear me?
Yeah, we could hear you.
Oh, okay.
Hello?
Sorry. I'm not very technological. My wife's not here this is the first time I logged into Zoom on my own. So my wife usually handles that, but yeah, I mean, I don't know if anyone has any questions or has anything in particular to ask. I mean, I was saying earlier that I would have loved to have, had an hour with my 22-year-old self just to be able to, kind of give perspective, because, especially, for law students, I mean, the crap we heard in law school about the process and about jobs. And, I mean, like, I went through law school in 2 years instead of 3. I didn't take summers off, and all my friends were like, oh, you don't have internships, you're not gonna be able to find a job. It was like, there was a lot of that stuff that I stressed out about back then that ended up not really being an issue. So
The question I have is, I understand, like, from your perspective and what your experience was like of you not pursuing like a internship during law school. Would you say that? Do you think that impacted you in any way, or like was it helpful for more? Was it more helpful for the people who did pursue an internship while going or while getting a degree, a JD?
I don't. I mean, I think internships are great, and especially for like litigation. Yeah, and that was the big difference, like between me and pretty much all of my friends in law school was, almost all of them went to litigation. Yeah, and not doing the internship process really didn't affect me at all because, it you know it it litigation is one of those things that there's a lot of steps to it. You start here, you work on this stuff, and then you work on this stuff, and then you work into it. An internship is kind of part of that beginning step. And in transactional law, it's there's it's more research driven. As far as like the beginning stuff I did as a clerk right after I graduated, it was more, and I can look back now and I can realize my partner just didn't want to, he needed, like I remember the first main project I worked on was converting a bunch of limited partnerships to LLCs. And because this was 98, and LLCs were only like a few years old. And so, a lot of our clients were converting partnerships into LLCs just because LLCs were, kind of a better entity to hold long-term real estate in. And, but my partner had no idea how to do it. And so, he, tasked his law clerk to do it. But at the same time, I got to actually draft. I was, almost from the beginning, I was drafting. It was total crap, I'm sure. I mean, compared to what I would draft today, but it was still valuable because then, he could, review it, edit it, but I think that, especially in litigation, I think interning's good. And the reason I kind of tell that story is just accept that you're gonna get the crap work. I mean that's what I got. I got the crap work. I got the stuff that my partner doesn't want to do, and and it's stuff that I now hand off to my law clerk. But the upside too is that I also had full access at the time. I had full access to LexisNexis, Westlaw. I don't know if Westlaw is around anymore. So I actually had some tools that were valuable, in that process. And again, I think it's less of a significant. Well, I don't know. I mean, it may be less significant today. But back then, there was a gigantic technological gap between me and my partner, who started practicing in 1978. And me, who started practicing 20 years later. And like he had no understanding of how to do like research, with computers. And so there was value, but just understand it, you're going to get the stuff that kind of sucks, the one upside for me is that we're only a 4 lawyer firm, now but one of the upsides of working for like a small firm was you got your hands dirty faster. You go to a big firm, you're gonna kind of go up in the ranks, over time. And but at the same time, I would assume that the rewards are greater over time once you go through that. Whereas for me, working for a small firm, it was more I got to learn a lot faster on how to actually I jumped those steps faster. But yeah, I mean, interning and also, I mean, if you can, I mean, pick an internship that actually interests you. Yeah, I mean, it's you know, not even so much in your field, you know, necessarily, but something that interests you. You know, just because, you know, I mean, I know the grind of law school, you know, and you know, and you know, even for me, like, you know, if I were to have done an internship, I would have loved to do something like in criminal law, because it was fascinating to me. It's as far away from what I do now, and it's far away from what I've ever done professionally, but you know, but as far as like an area of law that's fascinating to me, I loved it. I mean, it was really long. You know, but so I mean, ideally pick an internship that kind of is in a field that you're interested in, but you know, but at the same time, I mean, like, yeah, I had friends. I graduated in '98, and that was right at the beginning of like the tech boom. And I had a lot of friends that were jumping into the whole tech, and working with these startups, getting, you know, shares for, you know, in exchange for compensation. And, you know, and then, you know, a couple, you know, 2000, the whole bubble burst. Yeah, but you know, for them, it was still good, valuable experience, just because it was something that they were interested in.
Coming from a family that is not too familiar with like the law background, what would you say is the best way to network?
I think it somewhat depends on the field. I mean, like for me, I mean, the best networking I do is with accountants. Yeah, because, you know, accountants have clients that are very, very similar to mine. Yeah, and you know, and you know, and you know, but I think that you know, as far as like, you know, more like a referral source, I mean, that's my main referral source for you know, as far as networking. Um, you know, you know, I mean, I'm going to be blunt and candid. You know, I mean, you know, networking out of the industry is always, I think, a very good thing, but be careful on kind of what, you know, a lot of there are like these network groups and stuff like that, but you know, but for example, like insurance agents, I've never had good networking arrangements with insurance agents, because you know, there's you know, it's an industry that there's a lot of quid pro quo, and you know, and that's, you know, and that's, you know, I mean, I get it. I mean, you know, you know, if clients need an accountant, you know, it's good. I'm going to give them one of 3 or 4 accountants, or, you know, give them all of them and say, here's 4 accountants that I love. You know, but it's very informal. You know, but I think networking out of the industry, you know, particularly for me, just because, yeah, I'm not a litigator. I mean, that's probably less valuable advice for litigation. You know, but as far as, you know, getting clients and stuff like that, I mean, you know, it's you know, one thing that's very true is, people will almost always go with a referral. Yeah, I mean, you know, I mean, that's, you know, that's, it's, you know, I get calls all the time, you know, hey, you know, Joe recommended you. Yeah, and you know, and so, you know, and so a lot of times Joe may be someone that I just talked on the phone with 2 years ago. You know, I've talked to him on the phone with half an hour, ended up, you know, nothing to do. You know, and, you know, no bill, didn't bill him anything, and you know, ended the call, hey, call me anytime. Yeah, and you know, so a lot of it is also just, you know, not looking and expecting necessarily an immediate tangible outcome in the networking. Yeah, I get those calls all the time. I get calls probably once or twice a week of people that just have a question. Yeah, and most of those calls go nowhere. You know, but those calls, you know, me taking the time to take those calls does generate business, does generate connections, does generate, you know, it enhances my business. and I'm a talker, so it's real easy for me to have a half-hour phone call without even trying.
I have a question. In your opinion, is law school worth it for the price that people pay? Meaning full sticker.
It's tough. I mean, I don't even know what it is now. I mean, when I went to school, it was like $8,000 a semester. And my school wasn't cheap. I went to Cal Western here in San Diego, and they were just as expensive as USD, which was the only other accredited school here in San Diego at the time. But what is it now? You know?
I'm actually not too sure, but
I'm guessing around. I mean, probably like 30,000 a year would be my guess, but I don't know.
Well, if you're going to USC, it's almost 60 grand a year.
I mean, I would. I mean, here. I guess my answer is yeah, but move back in with your parents. Cut costs. I guess. Yeah. I mean, that's what I did. I spent a few years after college, had fun, and then when I went back to law school, I actually moved back in with my parents. Which is the other reason I went through in 2 years and through instead of 3, because I wanted to not be with my parents. But I guess my answer is yeah, but just live like a poor law student. I mean, keep your overhead as low as possible. I mean, at the end of the day, the great thing about a law degree that as compared to like an MBA or other advanced degrees is it's extremely versatile. I have a number of friends that I had one friend who graduated law school and then he inherited a bunch of money like a month before the bar. So he decided he didn't want to be a lawyer. And so he went to flight school for 18 months and became an airline pilot. He's kind of the outlier in the group, but I have a lot of lawyer friends that are now real estate agents, real estate brokers usually, but I have met many people ranging from CEOs of pretty big companies to, clients that, that's like, that were saying, I used to practice. I'm a licensed attorney. I mean, because it is a very versatile degree in the sense that, the first day of law school at orientation, I remember, the dean saying that, we're going to change the way you think. Which was true. I mean, that the way that you look, the way, part of, issue spotting, part of the process of law school is to teach you how to look at things differently. And that's valuable, in a broad range of fields. I mean, don't get me wrong. Most lawyers don't make good business people. Because of that, because, we always think, like me, I mean, I would not be a good business person because I would always be worried about what can go wrong, because that's kind of what they train us to think. And, and even after 21 years of practicing, that's how I think is what can go wrong. I look at a transaction, what if, and that's not good business thinking. But it doesn't mean that I mean, like if you were to shift, go to law school and then shift into business, it's still valuable training and it's a valuable education, because it allows you to kind of look at a situation or an issue more with wider perspective. but but it's not, but maybe only probably, I don't know, 10-15% of lawyers, law students that go to law school, that become lawyers can, probably make that jump into business, just because, it's so ingrained to think about risk, rather than performance. And but overall, I mean, I do think that it's worth it. It's just I guess my answer would be yes, but cut your costs. 60 grand a year, that's and that's a lot of money. But it's not, I mean, there's still a lot of opportunity. I mean, I was Googling, you can look up the salaries of public employees. So I looked up a friend of mine who used to be a public defender. She actually just became a judge. And which is, believe me, when you get to my age, those are signs that you're getting old, when your friends are now becoming judges. But I mean, she was a public defender for, up in the Bay Area. I mean, her base salary was like $220 a year, which is, it's not a bad salary. And it's a government worker, a government employee. So I mean, looking at the cost of the educations compared to, what what the benefit. Now again, that was, her doing it for 15 years. So I she didn't jump into the position at that range, but but I think that I went golfing with the former a kindergarten through 12 buddy who was the former controller of Google, who retired a few years ago, and we got to talking, and he was telling the story about apparently some economist that according to my buddy, he's like, this guy may be the most, like, the best economist in the world. And and a bunch of him and my buddy and a bunch of other Google employees were just shooting, talking about it. And someone asked him, it's like, what, kind of similarly, like, is education worth it? And the guy's response was, they've done, there've been hundreds of studies on the issue, but the guy's response was that the only certainty is that someone with a high school degree makes more money than someone without one. Someone without a college degree or with a college degree makes more than one without a college degree. Someone that has an advanced degree makes more money than someone with just a college degree. And that was, I think pretty telling is as far as, just the general, the higher the degree, the only certain studies that have been out there is that that's the only, whether going to a USC law school or Cal Western law school, there's no real metric on the quality of the school, but it's more the only metric that really that they can measurably prove is true is the higher the education, as compared to lower education, as far as, compared to lower education. So, which that stuck with me. I mean, we were just, out golfing. He was telling me about this, and that really stuck with me, because I think that's, I can look back now and I think that that's true. I've had buddies that took 2 or 3 times to pass the bar that are making tons of money. They're at this point, they're making money just to make money. They don't need to make any more money, but they were the backroom students. They were the ones at the back of the room, so it's still probably worth it.
What is your favorite and least thing about dealing with real estate commercial or commercial real estate?
Ask the first part again.
What is your favorite and least favorite thing about dealing with commercial real estate?
Uh, I mean, my favorite thing is when it gets to me, there's usually not a lot of um, it usually the parties are pretty motivated. Yeah, there's not a lot of haggling. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I get involved at the very, very beginning of a transaction. Um, but usually there's not a lot of haggling, and because of that, I mean, the transactions usually go pretty smooth. I mean, the worst part, I mean, coordinating like all the pieces together, like the finance side, getting, dealing with lenders and if there's tenants in play, like, just, getting the estoppel certificates from the tenants and, making sure that the financing, gets done in place. And sometimes clients, the buyers 1031ing into the property. So that kind of, sets a real clock running on the transaction, but the part I like least is just, sitting down and review, like a client's buying an office building and just having to go through and read the 15 leases, each one, even if they're identical. I mean, and they're usually not, by the way, and for some reason. I think some of that's, some tenants have been there for 20 years. Some tenants have been there for 15 years. Some tenants have been there for 5 years. And some tenants just signed up last year. So the versions are different. And having to read those leases because those are the leases that my client's inheriting. That's where, things, and having, that's where the difference between an and an or matter. And also, I mean, and also kind of the, it's also like, I'll say one of the things I don't like about it is also just making sure the client understands that what level of involvement they want me to be in the transaction. It's listen, I can be embedded in the transaction from start to finish and help out, but understand that that's there's a cost. I'm a big fan of, I tell clients all the time, don't hire me if you don't need me to do something. I mean, I'm more than happy to, but don't hire me, unless, you need me, like clients are like, well, Dave, can you file that statement of information with the Secretary of State's office? I'm like, dude, it'll take you 5 minutes. And if you make me do it, I'm going to charge you $100. I mean, but one of the parts about commercial real estate transactions I don't really like is just kind of, I mean, and again, it's not a big deal, especially with me, because I'm very blessed with, I like my clients a lot. And, but always making sure that they understand that, hey, if you're going to have me read these 15 leases, that's going to cost a lot of money. Because it's going to take me a lot of time to read 15 leases. And one of the biggest challenges I had early on was figuring out how to handle fee discussions with clients. First it was very awkward. Now it's not, because it's just something that I have a lot more experience doing, and just being blunt. It's like, but just coordinating, the lending side and the review and the due diligence. The good thing is I don't get involved with like inspections and stuff like that. but because recommending clients, okay, hire the accessibility, the accessibility people to do a CASP inspection just to see, make sure it's ADA compliant, just coordinating all of that stuff. But I mean, in a perfect world, I would be okay. I'll draft the contract, put desk row, and I'm done. I mean, that's my favorite transaction. I don't have to deal with all the closing stuff. But yeah, it's. But generally, the thing I like about it is there's rarely a deal that goes to escrow that doesn't close, because by that point the parties have hammered out the initial discussions already. I mean, sometimes they do it formally with like a letter of intent, or LOIs and counter offers. But at the end of the day, I mean, most once it gets to me, it's going to happen. Now, business transactions, just by comparison, buying and selling businesses, there is no certainty on that. Those, it's like commercial real estate's like 90% chance it's going to close. Businesses, about 60, let's say.
Just kind of an off-the-cuff question. You said you had some friends who I think finished their law degree and then they just got their real estate license.
Yeah.
Did you find for them that was kind of a worthwhile pursuit?
They love it. Every one of them. There's three that I can think of. Well, two that I went to school with, and then one that actually did a little bit of clerking work for me years ago, and then one who, she's in her 70s now. She was a lawyer. She was a kind of a plaintiff's lawyer for a long time, and then when she was maybe 60 or so, she just became a broker. It was just kind of a post law law career job.
Were they all brokers or were they agents?
They're all brokers, and it makes sense too, because if you have a law degree, I think if you have a law degree or if you're a licensed attorney, I'm not sure which, but you exempt out of having to take the classes to take the broker's exam.
Excellent.
And so so that, I mean, so at that point, why not just take the broker's exam? Because you don't have to go through any classes. You still have to study. I mean, it's and the broker's exam's no joke. I mean, I was talking to a lawyer once who I respect quite a bit, and we're talking about that, and he's like, I'm going to tell you something I've never told anybody. He's like, I passed the bar the first time, but I didn't pass the broker's exam the first time. I mean, in his defense, he was saying I didn't really study that hard for it, but at the same time, it was because at the time I was thinking about taking the broker's exam, but it's the continuing edge that would just kind of kept me out. It's like 40 hours a year for a continuing edge for the brokers, and so I never really would have used it anyway. So.
Okay.
What would you say would be your biggest takeaway from all of your experiences? Like, if you were to look back and tell your past self the biggest lessons, what would it be?
I mean, I'm fourth generation middle class. I mean, that was my upbringing. My great grandparents, great grandparents came here, worked, I mean, but I mean, I came from a very, very middle class family for like many generations, and so education was always a pretty high focus, and my parents were grinding me on like go to college, get a degree. which is good. But I what's really made me think about this in the last, now especially with my oldest, being 13, is I see my clients, and my clients are mostly, the big bulk of my client base are, not even more broadly, probably 3/4 of my clients are foreign born. They immigrated here, and in San Diego, there's a very large like Iraqi Catholic population in San Diego, and they are very business oriented, and and they, that's a big chunk of my client base, and but not just them, but just I found that people that are my clients are the business entrepreneurs and stuff are mostly foreign born. And so it kind of it struck me like what about them, what about their upbringing and their experiences in life, how is that different than mine? And I kind of like reduced it down to like one thing, which is like when I got out of college, I got a job in the duplications department of a big company. I made copies for the whole company. And I think I paid like $7.25 an hour. This is 93, but I was never taught by my parents that there's no reason you can't go out and get a job and make $100 grand a year. Like, there was none of that, like the sky's the limit kind of mentality or instruction to me. And that's where in stark contrast with like my clients. Now I'm starting, because now the big base of my clients are now in their 50s and 60s, and now I'm very, very aggressively kind of targeting like the millennials basically, and and I see a lot of them. I saw a lot with my clients that were in their 30s 20 years ago, but there's not. I watch them and there's no limit. Like, they don't think, their attitude is exactly, why can't I just go out there and make a deal? Why can't I go out there and, buy a business or start a business or look at a situation? Like, like got a couple of guys that got in kind of the ground level in the hookah industry, and when hookahs became popular, and so if I could like go back and tell myself, it's like, listen, there's a tremendous amount of opportunity out there. Don't be afraid of the risk, especially 22, 23 years old. It's like, start something, invest a little money, invest a ton of time, invest a little money. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Because I've seen that with, I can think of a couple of clients just off the top of my head that were, they've been clients of mine since, for almost 20 years now. And I can look back, every one of them failed on something. Some deal that just didn't pan out. And these guys would lose, $100,000, $200,000 on it. And then they just, that sucks, good tax deduction, and then they'd go off and do something that makes them a ton more. But if I could tell myself what to do, it's like, do the risk. Like, I look back at me, like, I would have loved to like tried to be like a car salesman. I know that sounds weird, but like, that's something that I think I would have enjoyed doing, like right out of college, go sell cars. And even, and I started to learn a little bit from it, after I graduated law school. The reason I went to law school was I worked in accounting for a couple of years, before law school. And I realized I'm not a process-oriented person. I'm a very results-oriented person. And so, for me, my attitude is, hey, if I want to put 12 hours of effort on a project in a day, I want to be paid for 12 hours. and but even an evolution of that is, how to put 100 hours into a project that then, kind of self-generates revenue. And and I see how my clients are, and I admire them because it's hard. It's so hard. And it's especially hard, frankly, for people that were like me, that were raised in a very, very kind of traditional, middle class environment. Because, I mean, we're, all my high school friends, my 30th high school reunion was last year. So I got to, hang out with a lot of them for a weekend, and and they're all, professionals. They do this, they do this, there's a wide spectrum, but there's one or two that really excelled. I mean, financially for sure. And I think also like kind of satisfaction, like life satisfaction perspective as well. I mean, I think they both really love what they do. But I see my clients are guys that, have a 10th grade education that, that work their ass off and just, were just understood business and were good at it. And they took risks, some fails. But if I could tell myself, it's like, don't worry about risk. Don't worry about embarrassment. I mean, I often think, I'm like, as I do yard work around the house, I'm like, man, I would have, like, I was working in the front yard in my vegetable garden, and I was thinking, I'm like, I would pay any neighbor kid right now, like $15 an hour just to do some of this shit so I don't have to. And that's like a thing. As a kid, I would have loved to have like had that mentality of just start knocking on the doors and saying, hey, do you need something you need me to do around the house? I mean, that's obviously a super kind of rudimentary example of that. But even even into my 20s, it's like, dude, go be a car salesman. I mean, go sell, go sell cars. And or start a business, which is the hardest thing to do. And it's even, even today, it's right now it's, really hard with COVID, but, but business has changed a lot from what it is, today from what it was 30 years ago. And there's on the online business, and there's a whole, business is different now than it was 30 years ago. But at the end of the day, business is business. It's different platforms, different formats, different models, but at the end of the day, there's, it's just a function of supply and demand. So
besides what you've learned in school or studied in school, can you recommend, or do you even read any books on sales or real estate or anything?
I don't. I mean, I read a lot of articles. I mean, but I say it that way just because it's one of those things that I know I should. I mean, it's I mean, in the past, like, I mean, I've done it before, but it's not like a I mean, I admire people that can go read like the books and on things like that. I'm just too lazy. I mean, I'll be very honest, is although I did read this one book about how to tell, it was about 10 years ago, that was very helpful, is tells of people lying. I can't remember the name of the book, but it was like a book basically on tells on how to tell when people are lying. Because that actually has a lot. I mean, it has application, I guess, in all things, but that was something that I've always been interested in, and that was actually pretty helpful. But no, I read a ton of articles and subscribe to, like a couple of trade publications, and I'll flip through, but a lot of times it's mostly being just aware of potential issues like tax, the changes to this tax law, or changes to the no contest clause, interpretations, just a lot of times I may not even I may not even read the article, but just it makes me aware that hey, if I ever need to be aware of it, I know where to look in. I can know where to get more detail.
So I've been selling my own cars, running kind of funny you mention it, running my own underground business for like the past 3 years, and I'm absolutely over it. It's highly successful, but just so over the business. And I'm trying to either transition into some kind of online business because the amount of people you can sell to is just infinite, or kind of like the kid who knocks on your door to mow your lawn. I'm just like, I would like to get more real business experience, but I also don't want to be an intern without like decent payment, because like I'm kind of already worth a certain amount that I can generate by myself, and I need to keep growing income. And I'm just kind of like in this lost period where I'm not exactly sure what to do, but I want to like move into something lucrative, whether that's like just minimum for now, but has high payoff in the future. And I don't know what translation you can make of this, but if you have any advice that leads, that'd be cool.
I mean, I think some of that ties into networking. I mean, in a very, a very practical way. I mean, I think step one is networking, and basically getting to know people, and then having, and then again also bringing something of value. Like in my business, I see it, and by the way, I like where your head's at. I mean, that's the kind of, that's the kind of stuff I wish I had done. Is I see a lot of transactions where there's the sweat equity guy and the money guy. Yeah, and there's hybrids to that where, I mean, for you, I think a lot, the focus for you for the next, I don't know, 3 to 5 years is also just, there's that learning curve, but also, doing research, and finding something that, finding a demand, and doing research, and I mean, in real research, doing a lot of, finding like a demand, or even if it's just an idea that pops in your head, like, and you're looking into it, wow, this is a really good idea, but it's going to take $500,000 to launch. Yeah. And so I deal a lot with those kinds of arrangements where there's the money guy and the sweat equity guy, the idea guy, and then the kind of a hybrid of that is the client that maybe has a business, but then has someone that's worked for him for 10 or 15 years, and eventually my client we structure giving an equity and stuff like that into the deal, and the thing about lawyers is that I've had many sit downs with clients and their kids, the college age kids. About probably like 5 or 6 times I've done this with clients, about clients that want their kids to, like, my daughter, son, they're thinking about going to law school, and my advice is, especially with them, usually something along the lines of, learn as much as you can from your father, and then hire lawyers. Don't be a lawyer, hire lawyers. Because where the real benefit is I mean, hey, I'm a pretty well paid housekeeper, for my clients, but at the end of the day, I mean, how much I can make is, ultimately governed by the hours in the day. Whereas and again, it's good training. It's a good career. I love what I do, and I'm very, very lucky to have jumped into it pretty easily. But there's a limit. There's a limit on, I'm not making money right now. I mean, there's a limit on how much money I can make in a year. But I think that networking with people, but I know a lot of rich guys, and one thing that I know that they're going to want is they're going to want a well-researched concept. Like, let's say you have an idea and you're like, okay, I need to start talking to people. They're going to want, they're going to want it really well fleshed out.
Okay.
But
So, as far as networking goes, what would you say that the either lower upper class or the higher middle class is like most interested in hobby wise? Because that would be my networking, I think. It's just like hobby type stuff. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pausing. I have an answer, but it's something that I certainly teach with my daughters, and it's something that I have on numerous occasions emphasized with my female friends. In particular, I mean, the answer is the same for both genders, but I think it's really, really strong with women. Is golf. Is I think golf. I mean, is the best network. As far as like hobby kind of thing.
Such a stereotype. Of course, it's true, huh?
But it is true. I mean, I have played in the member guest tournament at Loyola Country Club for like years. I mean, now again, actually, that didn't really. Then here's, I guess, kind of I'll say it may be helpful is that didn't really help me. I mean, my partner was my client. And I actually had a few clients that were there too, but that didn't help me from a networking perspective or from a business development perspective, because every member and every guest at La Jolla Country Club already has their guy. Already has a guy, like they already have their guy. And so in that sense, like, and so when I say golf, it's like, I say golf for sure, golf, but not at La Jolla Country Club necessarily. Golfing at the Muni courses, golfing at the quasi the quasi privates. I mean, but I think that kind of more broadly on the networking concept is networking with people with looking for business owners ages 30 to 50. I mean, that to me is like, that's still to this day. I mean, that's always been my target. I mean, and from a client base, but even just from a getting to know people, perspective. I mean, but also doing, we have a lot of clients that have been clients of the firm since way before I was a lawyer, that came from my partner's, my partner's church, for example. So I do a lot of pro bono work for nonprofits. Which doesn't really generate a ton of like kind of referral business, but from your perspective, it may actually be a better, because people that are nonprofits, that volunteer for nonprofits and stuff like that, they may not necessarily be your target, but they may know people that would be your target, or they may have spouses that are your target, but I'll circle back to golf, because you are very, very, you're playing with 1 to 3 people in a very focused setting for 5 hours, And I mean, that is, yeah, I've always said that you can find out everything you need to know about somebody just playing around a golf with them. I mean, whether they know how to play or not, you know, everything I need to know about somebody, I can learn from them playing around the golf with them. You know, I mean, it's, you know, how, you know, I mean, just everything. I won't even, you know, list examples, literally everything I need to know about it. You know, and, you know, and I think it's particularly strong with, you know, I've taught so many, like, you know, female friends of mine over the years how to play golf, just because you know, it was, that was my undercover player move a lot of times, but it was also just, it's something I've, you know, it's a very valuable tool to, you know, to be able to go out there and not just play, you know, to be able to play well. I mean, you know, but yeah, I mean, doing things like that, you know, getting into some, you know, getting involved in some nonprofits, you know, but I'd say, like, for you, I mean, targeting, you know, the 30 to 50-year-old people, because they're also the ones that are still, you know, that may have a little bit of, horsepower behind them, but also are still young enough to, like, you know, be willing to take risks, be willing to start new ventures. Yeah, because once you get, you know, established people, once you get to about 60, yeah, you know, people, you know, my clients that are over 60 and well-to-do, like, their attitude is generally, why take more risks? You know, I mean, you know, and you know, I mean, not that they don't, because honestly, they still do a lot of times, just because it's fun for them. I mean, being, you know, doing business transactions, doing new deals, that's fun for them. You know, they get bored. I mean, I have clients that, you know, buying and selling real estate in their 80s. I mean, it's just because they love doing it. It's fun for them. You know, so.
Hey, Dave, it's already 1 o'clock and I know students have to go back to class. So do you want to put your contact information in the chat? So if anyone has any more questions, they could contact you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will do that. Hopefully I figure out how to.
It should kind of be on the bottom. There should be a bottom toggle saying chat. And I'll put the sign-in sheet again for anyone who came in late. Okay, there it is. Do you want me to put it in instead, your email address?
Yeah, email. Okay. Yeah, you definitely put. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
But yeah, do that, and you know, anytime. I mean, email me, you know, call me.
Before you guys go, let me quickly do that. So you guys have that. I know a lot of people had questions in the chat that wasn't answered.
I want to thank you very much for your time, David.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I learned a lot.
And good luck to you guys. I mean, I feel for you guys. I mean, being in school right now with the, you know, this COVID is just gotta be a just terrible pain in the ass. So yeah, I feel for you guys.
Okay, does anyone have any other questions for me?
I came in late. I don't see myself on the sign-in list, but that's about it.
Oh, you just open it up and sign in, like kind of fill it out.
Okay. My bad.
And thank you, Dave, for being here. Also, thank you so much to SLCP for collaborating. I don't know if you guys are still here, but thank you.
Yeah, we're still here. Thank you for having us. It was good that you put this thing together. We're happy to join.
I'm glad you enjoyed.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, David.
Thank you. On our behalf.
All right, guys.